I scraped the burnt edge off the salmon and slid it onto my plate. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No ding from my phone. No knock at the door. Just the dull tick of the microwave clock and the hum of the fridge. I sat down anyway. One plate. One candle. No cake, just a slice of lemon tart from the corner store. I lit the candle, then didn't blow it out. 5 o'clock passed. 6. I refreshed my messages. Nothing from Graham. Nothing from Sarah. Nothing from anyone. By 7, I was done pretending. I stacked the dishes in the sink, rinsed the glass, and poured myself a second cup of coffee. Bitter. Too strong. Just right. I grabbed my phone and opened social media almost by instinct. That's when I saw it. A photo of Patricia glowing in a designer sweater flanked by Graham and Sarah, both smiling wide. The caption read, "Happy birthday to the best mom ever. So lucky to celebrate you today." 1,000 likes, heart emojis. Comments from people I hadn't seen in years. "You deserve it, Patricia Graham, so thoughtful." Mother-in-law goals. I stared at the screen like it might change. It didn't. My hand shook. Not with rage, with clarity. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't that he forgot. It was that he remembered, but not me. He had remembered to book the dinner, remembered to bring flowers, remembered to raise a toast for her. I put the phone down, walked to the bathroom, washed my face slowly, stared at the mirror. There's a look people have when they've hit the limit of humiliation. It's not tears. It's not fury. It's stillness. That's what I saw in the mirror. I didn't cry. I turned off the lights and went to the closet, pulled out a photo album. Dusty, heavy, inside birthdays. Mine, his, ours. Little hands holding cake. My smile full and tired. His arms around my neck. A card. To Mom, my real-life superhero. I closed it and slid it back. Somewhere between those pages and that post, something had gone missing. Or maybe it hadn't. Maybe it had been taken. I sat by the window and finished my coffee. The candle still burned on the table. I didn't blow it out. Tomorrow I'd go about my day as usual. Grocery store, walk, garden, but something small, sharp had shifted, and it wouldn't shift back. I scraped the plate clean and dumped the rest of the tart in the trash. No candles this time. No photos. Just dishes. I sent him a message. 4 words. Hope you're doing well. Not a question. Not a guilt trip. Just air. I waited. 5 minutes. 10, an hour. Nothing. I walked outside to water the planters. The basil was dying, the soil cracked. Even the rosemary gave up. I didn't fix it. I just stood there, hose in hand, watching the water sink into dirt. Back inside, I vacuumed. Changed the sheets, folded towels, cleaned the top of the fridge. At noon, I made soup. At 1, I checked my phone. Still nothing. I opened the group chat. Nothing there either. Just Sarah's pinned recipe for almond scones and a photo Patricia had sent of her new patio furniture. White wicker striped cushions, wine glasses lined up on the table. Graham had commented, "Can't wait to come back next weekend." I put the phone face down. I ate the soup slowly, every spoon heavier than it should have been. I didn't want a grand gesture. I didn't need flowers. But a call, even just a call. I watched the sunlight move across the kitchen floor, time passing through empty rooms. By late afternoon, I walked to the mailbox. Junk, a water bill, a coupon for dentures, and a birthday card from the pharmacy. "We appreciate you, Lucinda. Here's 15% off cough drops." I almost laughed. Almost. Inside, I cleaned the counters, then the coffee maker. Then the drawer that held the birthday candles, some melted, bent from heat. I tossed them out. I didn't feel sad. I felt used up. like a drawer people reach into when they need something but forget to close when they're done. I texted again. Just one word this time. Thanks. It was sarcastic, maybe. Or maybe not. I didn't know anymore. I reread the message. Deleted it. Left the thread empty. Evening came. I reheated soup. Poured 1 glass of wine. Sat on the couch. Nothing on TV. I didn't care. Then just after 9, I got a notification, a tag. Sarah had posted a family moment collage. Her, Graham, Patricia, balloons, cake. A caption that read, "So blessed to have a mom who raised a man this loving. Happy birthday to the one who made it all possible." Every word was a match to dry paper. But I didn't reply. I didn't comment. I just powered off the phone and walked to the bedroom, closed the door, sat at the edge of the bed, and finally allowed myself to whisper what I'd been avoiding all day. I think I'm done. Not angry, not loud. Just done. Tomorrow, I'd clear out the garage. I'd find the old documents. There was a drawer I hadn't opened in years. Something about it pulled me now. I brought the casserole, set it on the counter, smiled when no one turned to greet me. Sarah poured mimosas. Patricia stirred the salad. Graham stood by the grill, flipping burgers like nothing had ever cracked. I washed my hands and took a seat at the end of the table. No place card, no napkin folded, just space. They laughed about travel plans. Lake Tahoe in July, maybe Europe next spring. If Mom can help out. Sarah added eyes still on her drink. I took a sip of water. No one noticed. Halfway through the meal, Graham turned to me and grinned. "Mom, you're tough, right? You don't care about birthdays and stuff. Never did." Sarah chimed in before I could answer. She's used to being alone. Laughter. Light. Airy. No one flinched. I picked up my fork again. Pushed the lettuce around my plate. My hands were cold. Not from nerves, not from age. From the kind of chill that comes when someone wipes you from the page while you're still writing the sentence. Patricia cut in. "I always told them celebrate the ones who fuss. You never fuss, Lucinda. That's your strength." I nodded, chewed, swallowed. Strength, I remembered staying up 3 nights baking Graham's science fair volcano cake. Remembered driving across 3 states when Sarah's mother broke her ankle only to sit in the car while they went inside. Remembered mailing gifts early, remembering anniversaries they forgot. Strength, they called it. I called it something else. After lunch, I helped clear the plates. Sarah passed me the stack. "Thanks, Lucinda," she said already, halfway back to the living room. I rinsed, stacked, wiped the counters. In the hallway, I heard Graham say, "She's fine. Just quiet. She doesn't mind." And Patricia. "Some women just do better in the background." That was the last plate I washed. I dried my hands, grabbed my bag, and left through the side door. No one stopped me. No one noticed. I sat in the car key in the ignition, staring at the house I used to help clean the garden I once planted. The faces I once believed were mine. They had moved on, rewritten me, filed me under quiet, independent fine with less. I drove home. Didn't cry, didn't scream. I walked straight to the garage, pulled down the old box labeled Estate, Elena, and carried it to the kitchen. I cut the tape, lifted the lid. Inside, documents, folders, envelopes I hadn't opened since the funeral, and something at the bottom, a sealed letter with my name written in her handwriting. I held it in both hands. Then I reached for a knife, sliced the envelope open, and unfolded the pages. I logged into the old bank account on a whim. The password still worked. So did the access. The balance was lower than I remembered. A lot lower. I clicked through the statements. My name, Graham's name, still listed together. I'd meant to remove myself years ago, or remove him, but life kept getting in the way. Then I saw it. March 18th, ACH transfer, $480 April 2nd. Home Depot, $3.122. April 9th, Patio World, $700. No notes, no questions, no permission. I kept clicking. Gas, groceries, luxury candles, spa gift cards, all pulled from the same account. All while I got a pharmacy birthday coupon and Silent Sundays. I called the bank, asked for verification. Yes, the joint account was still active. Yes, Graham had full access. No, I couldn't reverse the charges. Yes, I could remove him if I came in person. I hung up. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. I opened my drawer, pulled out my check register. The last time I used it was 6 months ago. I hadn't touched that account since. But Graham had. He didn't ask, didn't warn, just helped himself like I was a ghost with a purse. I walked to the window and looked out at the garden. Weeds were climbing over the walkway. No one noticed. No one helped. I thought about the patio furniture, the new roof on Patricia's house, the fresh siding I'd seen on Sarah's Facebook post with the caption, "Just in time for summer. Love you, Mom, just not me." I went back to the table, pulled out the rest of Aunt Elena's documents, her trust, her signature, her letter. Use this when you're ready to stop disappearing. I wasn't ready. Not quite, but I wasn't invisible anymore. I opened my laptop, made a list. Remove Graham from account meet with estate attorney Price Coastal Properties. Call Mr. Greer. Then I changed my online password. Locked the account. Scheduled a visit to the bank. It wouldn't fix what had already been taken, but it would stop the bleeding. I stared at the screen. At my own name, Lucinda Blake. Still here? Still paying, but not for much longer. I wiped dust off the last folder and felt the envelope slide free. Thick paper. Still sealed. My name in her handwriting. Lucinda Jean Blake. I sat down, took a breath, tore it open. The letter was short. 1 page, no greeting, no apology. When they stop seeing you, that's when you look. I knew this day might come. The account is under your name, only yours. No shares, no permissions, no explanations owed. Don't explain. Don't ask, just begin, Elena. I kept reading. Attached were statements, passwords, attorney contact sheets. A trust funded quietly over 3 decades. Total value, $1.2 million. Accessible, liquid, legally protected, mine. My name was printed alone. Not Graham's, not Sarah's, not Patricia's, mine. I folded the paper again slowly, like it might vanish if I moved too fast. The clock ticked once behind me. The kitchen light buzzed. Outside, a dog barked in the distance. I stood, poured coffee, sat again. Then I laughed. Short, dry, tired. I'd spent years counting pennies holding back, telling myself it wasn't the right time, that I didn't need much, that they just didn't mean it, that Graham would come around. I was wrong. They saw me as optional, background, backup, and I'd let them. But this was air. This was breath. This was mine. I pulled out my notepad, crossed off remove Graham from account, already done. Underlined call Mr. Greer, twice. Then at the bottom, I added a new line. Buy something beautiful, not to show off, not to flash, just to reclaim space, not for them, for me. I tucked the envelope into my coat pocket. Then I stood, walked to the mirror, and looked straight in. Still here, still me, but this time with keys they didn't know existed. And I wasn't going to warn them. I walked into the kitchen and froze. Sarah's voice echoed from the phone on the counter. She was on speaker. Graham must have stepped away. Just don't push her yet. She'll leave the house to you if we stay nice a little longer. Silence. Then Graham's voice lower. Are you sure she's predictable, Graham? Lonely. She wants to feel needed. Let her believe it. It's not like she's using the place. The sound of ice clinked in a glass. I'm just saying, Sarah added. We could do a lot with that property. If we're patient, it's ours. My breath caught. I didn't move. I mean, look at her. She laughed. She still brings casseroles and thanks us for nothing. Just keep playing sweet. She'll hand it over. Footsteps. Then the line went dead. I backed away. Quiet. Slow. I didn't want them to know I'd heard. Not yet. I left the room, walked straight to the hall closet and grabbed my coat. Drove around the block twice before I could breathe normally again. That night, I didn't sleep. They weren't being kind. They weren't even neutral. They were calculating. And I had been cooperating. I'd stayed civil, kept quiet, smiled through it. Because I wanted to believe something could be repaired. That some small thread of love was still in there. But now I knew. It wasn't love, it was a waiting game. I was the house. I was the will. I was the silence they depended on. And I was done offering it. By morning, I had a list of agents, a folder of listings. Mr. Greer was already reviewing the trust. I called him at 9 sharp. Lucinda. He said, I've been expecting this. I told him what I wanted. He didn't hesitate. It'll be quiet, legal, final. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I'm ready, I said. And I was. I called Margot first, my niece. We used to talk every other Sunday. No answer. I left a voicemail, kept it light. Said I missed her laugh. Told her to call whenever, she didn't. Next, I dialed Ruth, church friend, 10 years strong. We used to walk after Wednesday service. I got her through her husband's cancer. She once called me her anchor. Straight to voicemail, I called again. It rang once, then cut off. I stared at the phone. Third try, I reached out to Elaine, my cousin. We shared summers, sleepovers, secrets. She picked up. Oh, Lucinda, she said, voice already stiff. Now's not really Sarah's here. We're planning the fundraiser for Patricia's neighborhood. I paused. Just wanted to hear your voice. A long breath. Let's catch up later, okay, click? I sat at the table, phone in hand. Cold coffee on the counter. The hum of the refrigerator felt louder than it should. They were pulling away, not in anger, not in open fight, just quietly, like paint peeling, one flake at a time. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then I remembered the barbecue last spring. Patricia had arrived with flowers. I had come with pies. They'd placed her at the center, me at the edge. The introductions were quick. That's just Lucinda and the looks. The way Sarah steered conversations, dropped small comments. Lucinda's always been sensitive. I had ignored it. Now I saw it. They were building a version of me I didn't recognize. Unstable, needy, alone. So that when I vanished from the story, no one would ask why. I stood, walked to the mirror in the hall. Still me, still whole, but quieter now. Quieter than I wanted to be. That night I sat down with the realtor's packet and circled a single property. Oceanfront, secluded. Bright windows. Then I called Mr. Greer. It's the one I said. He didn't ask why. Just said, understood. I'll handle the wire first thing tomorrow. I turned on the recorder before knocking. Graham opened the door, grinning like nothing had rotted beneath us. Hey, Mom, come in. I smiled. Said nothing. Followed him inside. Sarah was already at the table. She didn't stand. Just gave me a quick once-over and kept sipping her smoothie. Patricia wasn't there this time. Probably hosting someone more important. We talked about nothing. Weather, trash pickup delays. Graham asked if I needed help changing the locks just in case Mom. Sarah chimed in. The neighborhood's changing. Might be smart to get that house in someone else's name just to protect it. I nodded. Good thought. I let them talk. 23 minutes I recorded, every sentence tucked away. When I got home, I backed up the audio, labeled the file, logged the visit. Then I opened the joint account again. Another charge, $189 at some seafood place by the pier. Not mine. I printed the statement, marked it, stapled it to the growing file in the red folder. The one I now kept inside a locked drawer beneath a bag of old yarn and expired coupons. Next, I emailed Mr. Greer. Subject: confirm timeline. Attached proof of withdrawals, old deeds, Elena's letter, the signed contract for the villa. He responded in under 15 minutes. Understood. Paper trail looks solid. Everything's moving on schedule. I closed the laptop. Then I walked to the hallway mirror again. For years, I looked in that mirror and saw a mother first. That was it. That was the job. That was the weight. But now I saw something else. A witness. To their words. To their hands. To their smirks when they thought I wasn't looking. I'd always kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. Now I kept it shut to keep control. That night, I opened the safe behind the laundry shelf, tucked the red folder inside. Then I added something new. A printed photo of my villa, still empty. Still waiting. Windows wide to the sea. And underneath it I wrote in pen, mine, no one else's. I signed with steady hands. Not rushed. Not nervous. Just ready. Mr. Greer passed the final page across the desk. That's it, he said. The transfer's complete. The inheritance was no longer a distant number on a statement. It was real. Liquid. Protected. He folded the documents, slid them into a thick envelope, then pushed it toward me. I didn't smile, just nodded. The next morning, I wired the payment in full, $800,000. No loan, no mortgage, no cosigner, my villa, white stucco, tall glass, backs to the cliffs, wide ocean past the pines. Listed under Lucinda Jean Mercer, my maiden name. My name before the sacrifices, before I let people rewrite who I was. I didn't tell anyone, not Graham, not Sarah, not even the neighbor I used to bring soup to on holidays. I drove up the coast alone, key in hand, red folder locked in the glove box. The road was clean, sharp, quiet. Every turn unwound something inside me. Years of noise. Requests. Dismissals. Gone. When I arrived, the realtor met me with a clipboard and a quick handshake. Congratulations, he said. You're the owner now. I walked through the front door and took a slow breath. Wood floors, wide beams, no footsteps but mine. Sun poured across the living room. I stepped into it. This wasn't a reward. It wasn't an escape. It was mine. A line drawn in granite. That evening, I stood barefoot in the kitchen, holding coffee in one hand, deed in the other. No signatures but mine. I opened the sliding door, walked out to the deck. The wind hit my face. I didn't flinch. No one knew where I was. No one saw me arrive. And for the first time in years, no one was waiting to take anything. I took the picture just before sunset. Wind-swept hair, coffee mug in hand, the ocean behind me. No filter, no second shot. I posted it with 6 words. Best birthday ever. Peace, finally. That was it. I locked the phone, made dinner, ate alone. No candle, no card, no pity. By the time I rinsed my plate, the messages had started. First came Sarah's text. Where are you? Then is this. Real Lucinda call, Graham. We're worried. I sipped more coffee. By 9 p.m., Graham had called 11 times, left 5 voicemails. One started angry. The last one shook. Mom, just call me. Please, I need to know what's going on. I didn't answer. I let the silence speak louder. By morning, Patricia had joined in. A message wrapped in fake warmth. Hope you're enjoying your little trip, dear. We'd love to see you soon. Graham's confused. I'm sure you didn't mean to surprise him like that. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked down to the cliffs. Let the wind hit me clean. The house behind me stood still. No one barging in, no one snooping, no one slipping things out of drawers, just me, the sea, the truth. When I came back up, the voicemail light blinked again. Graham, Mom, we didn't know you were doing something for your birthday. You didn't say anything. Pause. Is it a rental? Is someone with you? Another pause. Can we come visit? There it was. Not, where are you? Not, are you okay? But can we come? Now that they saw it was real. Now that the air smelled like money. I set the phone down, walked to the safe, opened the red folder, checked the last set of transfers. Everything airtight, everything mine. And not one of them had any idea how deep it went. Not yet. I opened the door before he knocked. He stood there in his pressed shirt and fake concern. Mom, he said, breath short, you didn't return my calls. I stepped aside. Come in. He scanned the villa as he walked through. Every wall, every window, eyes moving fast. This place is... Wow. I poured coffee, set it down between us. He sat leaning forward. Why didn't you tell me you were doing this? I shrugged. Thought I'd keep it simple. He looked me over, trying to read something. His tone softened. Is everything okay? I mean, really okay. I smiled. Never better. The recorder in my pocket ticked on. I'd turned it on the moment I heard his car. He took a sip of the coffee, glanced at the deck. So, you bought this, I nodded. In full. No mortgage. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Look, Mom, Sarah and I were worried. That's all. You left kind of suddenly. I said nothing. He tried again. It's beautiful. I didn't expect it. We didn't even know you had the money. There it was, not, how did you find this place? Not, are you happy? But where did the money come from, I guess? I saved well, I said. He laughed. Too loud? Clearly. Or you've been holding out on us. That word again. I let the silence stretch. He tapped his mug. You know, Sarah said maybe you'd like company here. Even just for a weekend. Family time. The kids could, I cut in. This place isn't for guests. He blinked. Oh. A pause. Not even us, I stood. Picked up his empty cup. Especially not you. He stood too, but slower. Face stiff. Right, he said. Okay. Well, you seem... settled. I walked him to the door. No hug, no promises. As he stepped out, he turned once more. Just don't be a stranger, Mom. I held his gaze. I'm not the one who vanished. I signed 3 times. Black ink. No hesitation. Mr. Greer nodded, flipped the page. This one removes him from medical power of attorney. I signed again. Next came the property trust. The villa, the accounts, the investments all rolled into a shell no one could touch but me. I picked the name myself, the Mercer Independence Trust. Greer slid the last form forward. This revokes all previous beneficiary designations. Graham's name won't appear on anything from this point forward. Not insurance, not real estate, not medical, not financial. I picked up the pen again. This is permanent, he said, unless you choose otherwise. I looked him dead in the eye. I'm not choosing otherwise. He didn't smile, just slid the form back into the folder. By noon, every document was filed, time-stamped, notarized, and locked. No one could change what I'd done. No one could undo it without crawling through walls I'd spent months building. The house was no longer just mine. It was sealed behind clauses and coded protections. Graham couldn't sell it, borrow against it, claim it. He couldn't even find it not under my married name. That afternoon, I visited the bank. Quiet branch, no music, no distractions. I sat with the manager and revoked all joint access on the legacy account, the one Graham had dipped into without asking. I closed it, transferred the remaining balance to the trust. "Would you like to notify the other party?" she asked. "No," I said. "Let him find out the same way I found the charge alone." I drove home with a calm I hadn't felt in years. When I stepped inside, the air felt different. Not lighter, not freer, just honest, mine. By dinner, I had the final copies in my safe. One set with Mr. Greer, another with the lockbox in town. I made coffee, sat on the deck, and watched the tide come in. The locks had changed. The doors looked the same, but the keys no longer fit. I opened the email without blinking, forwarded by mistake, from Graham's work address. Threaded below were 3 messages. Sarah had written first. She seemed disoriented when Graham visited. "I think she's slipping. Could be a blessing in disguise." Then Patricia. "Plenty of care options in their area. If she starts forgetting things, we should be proactive. Protect the house before it gets messy." Sarah again. "She'll be out soon anyway. Might as well prepare now. We'll make it seem like it's for her safety." I stared at the screen. No reaction. No outburst. Just breath. Slow, controlled. So that was the plan. Let me fade, then sweep in. Claim the house, the money, the story. Say I was confused. Say I gave things away. Say I wasn't safe anymore. They were trying to write my ending. I printed the thread, highlighted every name, folded it once, slipped it into the red folder under intent. Then I made a fresh pot of coffee. I drank it black. No sugar, no milk, nothing soft. Their words echoed in my ears while I poured. "She'll be out soon anyway." I remembered helping Sarah recover after her second miscarriage, holding her hand, feeding her soup, letting her cry on my lap. I remembered taking Patricia's calls when she was sick, driving her to her appointments, bringing her groceries when her neighbors skipped out. They called me family, smiled across dinner tables, hugged me in front of neighbors, all while planning how to erase me. Not even out of hate, just convenience. I looked around the kitchen. Everything clean, quiet, in place. Not a single thing missing except the people who once pretended to care. I didn't call them, I didn't respond. Instead, I emailed Mr. Greer again. Subject, change of directive. Request. Add copy of email thread to legal file. Prepare second clause trigger if involuntary commitment is attempted. 10 minutes later, his reply came. Received. Action already in motion. You're protected. I exhaled. Then I locked the front door, drew the curtains, and opened a blank note card. On it, I wrote one sentence, "I'm still here." I folded it in half and slid it inside the red folder. I walked in with a wrapped gift and a steady face. Patricia's birthday brunch. The table was full. Sarah's cousins, a neighbor, some distant niece with a camera. Graham waved me over like he'd done me a favor by remembering. "Mom," he said, pulling out a chair. "Glad you made it." I sat, smiled, passed the gift down the table. A book of pressed flower prints, nothing personal, nothing useful. Patricia opened it, nodded politely, and moved on. Coffee poured, dishes clattered, people chatted about patio furniture and flight delays. Then Graham stood. Fork tapped glass. "Hey, quick thing," he said, grinning like a man who thought he was in control. "Sarah and I have been thinking since Mom's not really using the house full time." Sarah laughed lightly, like it was a joke. "We're considering moving in," he continued. "You know, just for a bit, keep it cared for. Maybe update a few things." Chatter died down. A few guests glanced at me. I nodded. Took a sip of coffee. "That sounds lovely." He blinked. "So you're open to it?" I set the mug down. "It's nice you're making plans." Sarah leaned forward. "We could even help sort through some of the rooms, make it more functional." Patricia smirked like she already had the key in her purse. I smiled again, tilted my head. It's good to have dreams. No one knew what to say after that. They moved on. Cake came out, candles, singing. I clapped politely, held the plate they handed me, didn't eat. Afterward, as the table emptied, Graham pulled me aside. "Mom," he said, quieter now, "we'll call next week. Maybe come by the house, get a sense of the space again, just to get ahead of things." I touched his arm. "Of course, get ahead." He grinned, kissed my cheek like he'd already won. As I walked out, I didn't look back. Not at Patricia, not at Sarah, not at the house they thought they were inheriting. I drove home with the windows cracked, the wind clean, and the silence sharp as glass. I arrived early. Not to be polite. Not to help. I wanted the room settled before the floor shifted. Patricia's living room looked the same as always, over-decorated and under-lived in. Guests milled around with plates of fruit, cheap champagne, and plastic flutes. Graham waved when he saw me, relief on his face, like he thought today might finally be the day I handed him my future. "Mom, glad you're here," he said, pulling out a chair as if courtesy could erase intent. I sat, set my purse on the floor, smoothed my jacket. The notary I hired sat quietly in the corner, blending in, flipping through a small leather binder. No one noticed him except me. Coffee arrived in mismatched cups. Birthday chatter filled the room, Patricia's garden, Sarah's new workout routine, a neighbor's vacation. Light, harmless, fake. Then Patricia tapped her fork on a glass. Before we cut the cake, she said, "Graham has an exciting update about family plans." Family plans? I kept my gaze steady. Graham stood with his hands on the back of her chair. "We talked it over," he said, sweeping the room with a confident smile. "And we're moving into Mom's place soon. It just makes sense. She doesn't really use it, and it'd be better if we keep it in shape." A few polite claps. Someone murmured, "That's wonderful." Patricia beamed. Then silence. I stood slowly. Chairs shifted. A cousin stopped chewing. Someone coughed. I reached down, lifted my purse, unzipped it, and pulled out the red folder. The room stilled. I walked past the table, past the stack of gifts, past Patricia's wide grin, straight to the man in the corner. The notary rose when I approached. I handed him the folder. He opened it in full view of the room. A deed with my maiden name. A trust stamped with yesterday's date. Legal notices. And at the top, a printed transcript of Sarah and Patricia's email thread. He cleared his throat. "Mrs. Blake, everything is executed and binding." I turned to face them. Patricia's smile faltered first. Sarah's mouth opened slightly. Graham looked from me to the papers, confused, then afraid. I said only one sentence. "These are no longer yours to plan for." No explanation. No elaboration. The notary stepped forward and set the documents on the coffee table. "For acknowledgement," he said. Graham swallowed. "Mom, what is this?" Sarah reached for the papers, but the notary shifted them just out of her reach. "They're not yours," he said calmly. I walked back to my chair, picked up my coffee, took a slow sip. Patricia tried to recover. "Lucinda, dear, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Not anymore," I said. The room cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like old wood under too much weight. Someone whispered, "Did she say trust? Someone else?" In her maiden name, Graham stepped closer to me. "Mom, why would you do this behind our backs?" I looked up at him, steady, tired, done pretending. "You did it first." He froze. Sarah touched his arm, whispering something sharp. I placed my cup down, stood again. This time, no one interrupted. I won't be moved. I won't be managed. I won't be erased. No one spoke. I didn't need them to. I picked up my purse, nodded once to the notary, and walked toward the door as conversations began to crumble behind me. Outside, the air felt lighter, clean, unclaimed. I unlocked my car, opened the door, and slid in, ready for the fallout that would come next. The card got declined at the florist, then the spa, then again at the hardware store when Patricia tried to pay for the new patio tiles she insisted were for the whole family's benefit. I wasn't there to hear the first outburst, but the neighbor told me later how Patricia turned bright red, blamed the cashier, demanded they run it again. Twice. The third time she called Graham from the parking lot, voice shrill and rattled. The card she snapped says it's no longer valid. He brushed it off at first. She's probably just being dramatic, he told Sarah. Mom wouldn't close that account. She doesn't even know how. But the next morning, when his gym membership bounced the truth, caught up to him. He drove to the bank, asked to check the family account. The teller pulled up the file, paused. It's been closed, sir. 5 days ago. Transferred and sealed under a private trust. He asked which trust. They told him they couldn't say. He asked who had access. They told him only the trustee, me. I was on the coast when he called. Waves in the background, phone on silent. Coffee warm in my hand. He left 6 voicemails. Then Sarah tried. Then Patricia. None of them mentioned my birthday. None of them said my name. They just said, "We need to talk. Call us back. What's going on? This is serious." It always becomes serious when the money stops. I stayed quiet. Let the tide roll in. Let the silence stretch. Let them sit in the room they built without me in it. That weekend, Graham showed up at my house in town. The one they'd assumed would be theirs. Locked, gutted, clean. The utilities were shut off. The mailbox forwarded. The deed refiled. He tried the key. It didn't fit. He knocked. No answer. The neighbor across the street watched, arms folded, as Graham stood on the porch, jiggling the knob, then kicking the bottom of the door like that would solve anything. I didn't see it myself. But she texted me later. He looked like a man who'd just realized the will wasn't written in his favor. I didn't respond. I just saved the message. Slid the phone into the drawer. The wind picked up. The sky turned pale. I pulled the cardigan tighter around my shoulders and walked inside. The folder waited on the table, closed still, just like me. I clicked send. No subject line. No note. Just a single email addressed to Sarah. CC Mr. Greer. Attached 5 audio files neatly labeled by date. I didn't listen to them again. I didn't need to. Her voice was clear on all of them, whispering plans to ease Lucinda out before she forgets things, joking that old ladies never notice what's missing, calling me dead weight over the hum of her espresso machine. I'd kept those files in a folder named Backup. Now they were out. I didn't expect a response. I didn't want one, but I got it. 33 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Sarah. I didn't pick up. It buzzed again, then again, then again. Graham tried next. Voicemail after voicemail. Long pauses, defensive tones. You misunderstood. This is being taken out of context. We never meant to actually do anything, mister. Greer replied to the email, short and simple. Received. Clear intent to defraud. I'll begin the response filings. I poured a cup of coffee. Sat by the window. Watched the sky change. The phone kept ringing. I muted it. Later that day, a follow-up message came through. Sarah again. This one typed. Lucinda, please can we talk before this goes further? We're family. There's been a misunderstanding. Please don't escalate things. I forwarded it to Mr. Greer. He replied, let them squirm. We're not responding until the affidavit is filed. I closed the laptop, walked outside, picked rosemary from the garden not because I needed it, but because it was mine. Still growing, still rooted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even satisfied. It was something quieter than that. Still, grounded. They didn't cry, they didn't scream, They calculated, they begged, they spun a new story, but they didn't apologize, and I didn't wait for one. The next day, a notice went out from Mr. Greer's office. Legal action pending. Breach of ethical care. Attempted coercion of elder property. He attached the transcripts to the filing. Everything was time-stamped. Everything was real. Everything had my name on it, Lucinda Blake, not the ghost they thought they could phase out. The money was already gone, the house already locked. The paper trail now public. All that was left for them was the echo. He pounded on the door. 3 knocks, then 4 more, then silence. I didn't move. The mug in my hand stayed steady. Steam rose untouched. I stood behind the curtain, still calm eyes fixed on the curve of his back through the glass. Graham looked older. Not tired, deflated. His shirt wrinkled, his shoes dusty. No Sarah, no kids, no bravado. Just him. He knocked again. "Mom," he said loud but uncertain. "Can we talk?" The wind pushed against the house. It carried salt ocean memory. I didn't open the door. I didn't step away, either. He glanced down the porch, then tried the knob. Locked. He cupped his hands against the window, searching, maybe hoping. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did. He turned, paced once, then sat on the top step. Shoulders hunched, hands clasped. He stayed like that for 8 minutes. I watched the clock. Not because I cared, but because I'd once counted how long he stayed on my birthday call years ago. 1 minute, 46 seconds. He stood again, knocked once more, then leaned close to the door. "I messed up," he said. "I know that. I just didn't think you'd disappear." I didn't disappear. They pushed. I walked. He waited a few seconds more, then turned slowly, stepped off the porch, walked to his car. He opened the driver's door, paused, looked back. His eyes scanned the windows one last time. I stood perfectly still. Then he got in, closed the door, started the engine, drove away. The gravel shifted beneath the tires, then settled. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't hurt, but because I'd already done that. Quietly, months ago, in rooms where no one knocked, on days no one remembered. I stepped back, let the curtain fall, carried my mug to the sink, rinsed it, set it down. The wind rattled the shutters once, then stilled. I sealed the envelope without shaking. No hesitation, no second read, just the photo I'd taken that morning. Sunlight on the porch, my mug in the frame, the ocean beyond it, and a note. 10 words. "You forgot my birthday. I remembered who I am." I pressed the flap, ran my thumb across the seam, then slid it into the mailbox at the end of the lane. Flag up, red against the pale morning. I didn't tell Mr. Greer. Didn't need to. This wasn't strategy. It was closure. I walked back up the path slowly, heard the gravel grind beneath my steps, smelled coffee on the breeze, my own brewing inside. Something familiar, something mine. No phone calls came, no footsteps. Only the hum of the refrigerator, the flick of sunlight moving across the counter, the quiet presence of peace. I watered the rosemary, wiped the table, sorted the drawer where I'd kept every document, every proof, every note I never wanted to write but had to. Now empty. Only one thing left inside, a copy of the deed folded twice my maiden name at the top in bold. Blake. I hadn't said that name in years. Now it sat on every line that mattered. I poured a fresh cup, walked to the porch, sat. No drama, no tension, just space. I thought of Graham, whether he'd open the letter in the kitchen alone or wait until Sarah came home. Whether he'd show it to her or keep it quiet. Whether he'd even understand it. Maybe he'd laugh, maybe he'd tear it, or maybe he'd sit for once and realize something had ended and it wasn't about money. I didn't need a reply. Didn't want one. Some truths don't ask for echo. They just land. I took a sip, felt the warmth hold steady in my chest. The tide crept higher, the wind shifted. The porch creaked slightly beneath my chair. I stayed where I was, unmoved. I opened the door, stepped outside, sat down. The mug was warm in my hand, black lettering clean against white ceramic, still hers. No one bought it for me. I ordered it myself. The deck boards creaked slightly under my feet as I leaned back. The air smelled like salt and pine. Somewhere inland, someone else was probably yelling over bills or noise or what's fair and what's owed. But here, just quiet, just mine. The ocean didn't ask questions. It didn't explain or apologize. It just moved steady and constant, whether anyone watched or not. Like me, I drank slowly, felt the weight of the mug in my palm, the heat pressing into my fingers. The name on the deed hadn't changed. The accounts were still in my control, the trust untouched. The keys right where I kept them inside a drawer only I opened. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. They could scramble, spin, rewrite. I didn't have to. I'd already left the page. They thought silence meant defeat. They forgot silence can also be final. My phone sat inside. Off. I'd kept it off since mailing the letter. The house had no photos of anyone else now, just one frame by the bookshelf me and Aunt Elena years ago, arms locked, smiling wide in front of a wooden fence she rebuilt herself. She'd taught me two things that stayed. Keep the spare deed in a different folder, and never let anyone speak for you once you've learned your own voice. I finished my coffee. Stood. Carried the mug to the railing and watched the water roll and rise. A bird lifted from the dunes, curved once disappeared into the sky. Nothing grand, nothing loud, but everything felt intact.